Ba 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 ba. I cannot lie, I don't really care much about next generation graphics. That's mainly because I play on medium to high. No, that doesn't mean I can't run games in ultra, but I stream and I'd rather not deal with the hassle. Most of the times I can run textures in ultra if I mess with some of the settings. Also, I have a weird hatred with shadows in games, so if there is an option, I will turn it off. The other reason is because I play a lot of CRPG games where story is the main focus. I've been getting some pretty looking CRPGs of late, like Baldur's Gate 3, and there's upcoming games like Avowed. I would even say that Rogue Trader is a very pretty CRPG, even though it is more on the gritty side. By that I mean that not everyone would care for it, but then again, not everyone enjoys CRPGs. It is funny that Baldur's Gate 3 put everyone onto CRPGs, but it's mainly for CRPGs that looked and played like Baldur's Gate 3. I feel like most people wouldn't be attracted to a game like Wrath of the Righteous because of how it plays, and also because of the fact that they included a lot of things that needed to be read in order to understand the story. There's voice acting in the game, but a lot of the story aspects are shown in blocks of text to understand certain parts of the story. As a gamer, I love being able to read all these lore points, but if we are talking about streaming, then I have to admit that I hate it. Again, I mainly say that because the more you have to read in the game, the more likely your voicing starts to feel like it is running out. Now, that is just something that you have to deal with when you stream for a long period of time. You can solve that by drinking water or tea and also pacing yourself with talking, but it also depends on what you stream. But most know that there is a ton of reading when you start up a CRPG. Do you care about graphics? Main reason I don't is because most graphics that kind of push realism type graphics are usually shooters and some outliers. Most of the games I play follow more of the cartoon or anime type of graphics, which is why I tend not to care. When I say realism graphics, I mean graphics that make you believe you are there. To sum it up, the characters look like real people, and the environment looks prettier than what you can see outside, but it is something you can see in real life. I guess I'm weird because I don't really care to play a game that reminds me of the outside world. I want to be whisked away to some fancy world with magic, and the magic that doesn't require you to have a math degree from the top school in the world. Yes, that is something that happens at times because magic has to deal with formulas, which adds realism to magic that I don't care for. For the most part, I have seen that mostly in mangas than in games. Last thing I would want would be to be teleported to another world, be happy that magic is a thing, and then be made to have to relive my worst part of schooling. Again, that is based more on if I were to be a Sec guide and not based on CRPGs and how you play them. I think that the only RPG games I played that had school and magic was Hogwarts Legacy and Spells and Secrets. I would count Sea of Stars, but there isn't really any school based system involved. With all that said, I would be intrigued with a game that had realism with magic, and I mean that in the graphic setting and not really magic based on real life properties. I think the upcoming CRPG New York Line kind of follows magic in the current field, but in a more steampunk fashion. Now, to explain that in a very uninformed way, magic is bad and has its complications. So scientists found a way to make steampunk technology become the forefront of society. At the end of the day, you can still study magic, but just know even that comes with its own set of complications. I don't know all the specifics because I plan to stream it, don't really want it spoiled. Also, the game is currently still in early access, so it'll be a while till I'll make a review of that game. Anyway, the point is, I don't really care about realism unless magic is involved. Also, don't hit me with only. You barely touch mage based classes in games. Even in Velgard, you play the rogue. Listen, I need to play other things to truly appreciate magic, and that is how that works. Now that I said nothing about realism, let's talk about cartoon like graphics. So, realism doesn't really draw me in because of what I stated earlier. What? You thought I was just gonna go off topic and not discuss realism? Nope. We are growing as a YouTuber. I feel like the first time I saw realistic graphics was in a Call of Duty game. And then a lot of games felt like they needed to follow that amount of realism to sell games. Then fighting games started to add realism to games, and the best were Mortal Kombat. Reason that was the best was because of the fatalities that looked even more brutal, with all the realism, which caused people to buy it year after year, to see how much they upped the brutality in the next game. Finding games like that make you regret the realism aspect, especially when you get Johnny Caged. I used to be one of those people that would purchase Mortal Kombat to stop when I bought their season pass and still was told I need to buy the DLC character separately. The funny thing is, I don't even know the last time I played a game that follows realism graphics. Well, a game I've streamed. So last two games that could be said to have realistic graphics was Far Cry 6, last September, and Plague Tale series in April. Truthfully, the Nier series also has realisms as well, so I could include it, and that also was played in April. While I did enjoy those games, the realism wasn't the reason for that, the story was. I didn't really care about the realism of Plague Tale when it came to siblings. But the realistic look of the rats definitely caused some emotions for me, and not the good kind. Story will always strike emotion on me, not the graphics, which is probably why I tend to veer towards CRPGs so much. Cartoon graphics is such a broad term that covers a wide scope that isn't really right to really say what defines what cartoon graphics really are. The reason I say that is because you go from the cartoon styles of Cuphead to a Lovecraftian love child that is Bloodborne. That's why I say it's very hard to really define what cartoon graphics is. Maybe because you can just call cartoon graphics as non-realistic graphics, which is why I say cartoon graphics are an umbrella term. Also, a better term would be non-realism versus realism. Rather have a different name that will cause people to be confused. An even better term would be fantasy graphics, which sounds like a comic publisher, but I meant that graphics works well with fantasy based games. Again, that is a big umbrella term because fantasy can mean so many things. Hell, even COD is a fantasy game, since you are playing as a character that is not you. So I do like a ton of games that have toon-like graphics, but truthfully I would lean more towards more a D&D realistic realism type of graphics. As you can tell, it's very hard to really explain what fantasy graphics are. So I'll just stop and say Celeste 2 fits my idea of fantasy graphics. So what do I look for in games if graphics aren't the first thing that grabs me? If it's a game that I plan to play on my own time, I look at the tags and I read the small information insert that's shown above the tags. If it interests me past that point, I look at the images and videos that are displayed to see if the game is something I would like. Then, as a final step, I will scroll down to read the more about the game to see if I should wishlist it. It really depends if the about this game bio interests me more, because that is how you find out if the game is truly for you. Again, that can be circumvented if the game is a sequel, and I like the first installment of the series. The only game I have on my wishlist that are sequels are Greedfall 2 and also Avowed, which technically isn't a sequel. Well, it would be a Pillars of Eternity 3, but it is a new thing. It's like I also have Celeste 2 and I'm showcasing it, so yeah. You can tell I forgot something. I would only say it isn't new because it plays differently compared to PoE, because it's a first person action RPG versus a turn based game. Now, I know most people will look at trailers first to see if the game interests them, which I am the same. If I found out about the game from a content creator, or just because it popped up on my feed, I'll look it up on Steam. The last video game trailer I watched was Dawnwalker, which looked very interesting, but it's still not listed on Steam, so I have no way to get more news about the game as time goes by. That's truthfully the main reason I decided to wishlist games in the first place. Steam will email you when the game goes on sale, which should also mean that it should email you when the game is available for purchase. But yes, I put on my wish list so I can check in on it from time to time, which is the best way in my opinion. I said all this to say that play what you want. Which is funny because this is the second time I've said this. Everyone connects to games for different reasons, and a lot of it doesn't deal with graphics. I will always run to CRPGs regardless of graphics. Well, that's a lie. Retro games, I'm hesitant to give a chance because I've been burnt many times from old games. To better explain, I just had problems playing the games because it was old and none of the problems were fixed. I know that any new retro style game shouldn't have any of the jank problems, but listen, sometimes you just have trust issues. I just need to get over my retro bias. Just try to play some really good retro games. I think that is probably the only game graphics I've strayed from because of bad memories. Like, as much as I love the Baldur's Gate series, just remembering the problems I had with the game is making me sad. I also had the honor of watching my friend play BG3, and it is a top down view, retro style, so you can't really see the character. I like being able to accurately identify all the characters in my party by their looks or armor. A lot of time in retro games, you truthfully will only know what character is what is by their hair color. This makes sense for a retro game. Anyway, tell me what type of graphics and genres of games you like in the comments. My name is Olympus, and that has been my time. Later days. I love you all. Bye. Mwah. Sending kisses consensually. Love you all. Bye. Mwah. Peace out. Love you.